Elena. My name, my real name, not the soft one Mark used when he wanted something, came out of Emily's mouth like she was spitting poison. What the hell did you do to my baby? She didn't wait for an answer. She shoved past me into the living room, where Margaret and Frank were already rising from the sofa like they'd been waiting for her. My father-in-law's face had gone the color of old brick, that deep, rage-flushed red I'd seen 20 times before, always directed at me. Margaret was wringing her hands, her mouth opening and closing like a fish gasping for oxygen. Emily, calm down. Calm down? Look at him. Look at what she did. I closed my eyes for one full breath. 2. Behind me, through the nursery door, Samuel was still crying, meeting me, but I couldn't go to him yet. Not until I understood how bad this was going to get. When I opened my eyes, Mark was standing in the kitchen doorway, holding his coffee mug like it was the only solid thing in the room. His face had that blank, overwhelmed expression I knew too well. The one that said he was already looking for the path of least resistance, the compromise that kept everyone from yelling at him. Elena, he said, and I could hear the pleading in his voice already. Maybe you should just. Just what, Mark? Emily spun on me, her free hand coming up. For a second, I thought she was going to slap me. I braced. But she stopped short, her fingers curling into a claw that hovered 6 inches from my face. You poisoned him, she said. Her voice cracked. You knew what was in that formula, and you let me feed it to my son anyway. You wanted this. Emily, I didn't. Don't lie to me. I watched his skin blister. The doctor said it was an allergic reaction, a severe one. He could have died. Frank slammed his palm on the coffee table. The sound made me flinch, and somewhere behind me, Samuel screamed louder. That's enough, Frank said. His voice was low and shaking, which was worse than when he yelled. Elena, you'll explain yourself. Now. Explain what? I heard my own voice come out flat. That strange, distant calm that descended over me when the fear got too big. Explain why my son's formula made her sick? I didn't know she was. Don't give me that. Emily stepped closer. Close enough that I could smell the baby formula on her shirt, or my formula, the expensive can I bought last week, the one I'd hidden in the back of the pantry because I'd run out of places to keep things safe from them. You gave me that can, you offered it. I didn't offer anything. I came home from work and found it gone from the pantry, just like the 4 cans before it, just like the diapers and the wipes and the... Borrowed. Frank cut in. We borrowed it. You're part of this family, Elena. What's yours is ours. Then, what's yours is mine? I didn't mean to say it. The question just slipped out, sharp, honed by months of watching my pantry shelves thin out while my son's weight percentiles dropped. The silence that followed was worse than the screaming. Frank's jaw worked like he was chewing something bitter. Margaret's eyes went narrow and wet, that crocodile glisten she turned on whenever she needed to play the victim. Emily stood frozen, her baby still wailing against her shoulder, red-faced and miserable. And Mark set his coffee down, slowly, like he was handling explosives. Elena, he said, softer now. Careful. I know you're upset, but look at Emily's baby. He needs help. Whatever happened, whatever you did. I didn't do anything. We can figure this out. Just apologize. Say you're sorry and we'll fix it. Something in my chest went quiet, not the calm of surrender, the calm of knowing. I looked at my husband, this man who had promised to stand beside me, to choose me, to build a life with me, and I realized he wasn't going to ask a single question about what actually happened. He didn't want truth. He wanted peace. And peace, to him, meant me eating any plate of dirt they put in front of me. No. The word came out steady. No. Mark blinked like I'd slapped him. I'm not apologizing, I said, for something I didn't do, and I'm not letting you, any of you, use my son's food to make yourself feel righteous. Emily's face twisted. Your son? Your son? He's not even. He is my son, and I've been watching what goes into his mouth for 6 months. The same formula you've been taking, Emily. The same formula Frank has been loading into his car like he's shopping at a discount warehouse. Don't you dare. I'm not going to scream at you, I said. I'm done screaming, but I am going to show you something. I turned my back on all of them. Walking away from that circle of hostile faces, from Emily's fury, Frank's contempt, Margaret's performance, felt like stepping off a cliff. Every instinct told me to stay, to defend myself, to fight. But I kept walking down the hall to the nursery, where Samuel had started to calm down on his own, his crying fading to hiccups and sniffles. I scooped him up. He was warm and damp and smelled like spit up, and I pressed my face into his hair for 1 second, just one, to steady myself. Then I carried him back into the living room, set him in his bouncer near the kitchen island, and pulled the half-empty can of formula from the pantry shelf. There's your evidence, I said. I held it up, letting them see the label. The German words that Emily couldn't read, couldn't pronounce, didn't bother to Google before she started stealing from me. This is a specialty formula. Hydrolyzed proteins. For allergic babies. Babies who react to standard cow's milk. Babies like mine. Emily's mouth opened. But you stole a can of my son's medication. You fed it to your perfectly healthy child. And now you're mad at me because your son has a rash? I didn't steal anything, you. Then how did it get in your house, Emily? She went silent. Frank's face had gone from red to something pale and mottled. Margaret was staring at the can like it might bite her. You want the price? I continued. I reached into the drawer where I kept receipts, pulled out the folded one I'd been holding onto for just this moment. It's $320 a can. I bought it from a German importer who ships it direct because no one in this country makes what my son needs to eat. I walked over and held the receipt in front of Emily's face. $320 per can. And you've taken 6 of them this month. You've taken over $1,900 of my son's food. She flinched back like I'd tried to burn her. Don't you use numbers on me. Use numbers? I'm asking you to use your eyes. This is a specialty medical food. Your baby is not allergic to milk. I am not trying to hurt your baby. You are hurting him by stealing something that was never meant for him. Emily's chin quivered. I could see her trying to find the right angle. The one that made her the victim again. The one that let her walk away from this with her pride intact. Frank cleared his throat. Elena, I don't think. Frank, I'm not done. He recoiled like I'd shoved him. I'm going to say this once. T.O. every person in this room. I looked at each of them in turn, letting the weight of my words settle. The formula you've been taking, the cans you've been treating like community property, is the only thing keeping Samuel's immune system from attacking itself. He's 6 months old. He's been hospitalized twice. You know this, that I told you this. Margaret, you were with me in the ER when they gave him his first dose of epinephrine. Margaret's eyes slid away from mine. So you all know, and you all chose to pretend it doesn't matter, because my son's health is less important than Emily feeling like she's getting her share of something. No one answered. Mark looked sick. Not angry, sick. Like he was seeing all of them through a cracked lens for the first time. Mark, Emily said, her voice high and desperate. Tell her she's being... Emily, stop. Mark's voice cracked, but he said it. You can't seriously be taking her side. I'm not taking anyone's side, I'm listening. And what I'm hearing is that you've been taking formula from our house without asking. Formula Elena has been buying for Samuel. Formula that. He ran a hand over his face. I didn't know it was that expensive. I didn't know any of this. Because you never asked, I said quietly. Because every time I tried to tell you, you told me to keep the peace. He met my eyes, and for the first time in months, I saw something other than exhaustion there. Regret. Maybe even shame. But I didn't trust it. I turned back to Emily. Here's what's going to happen. You're going to leave my house. You're going to take your son to his pediatrician tomorrow and show him the formula can. Because you need to know if he's actually allergic or just having a reaction to a high-protein formula he wasn't ready for. And when you're done with that, you're going to stop taking anything out of my pantry. Or what? Emily's voice was brittle, defensive. Or I start documenting, and I don't mean with words. I held up my phone, the camera already aimed at her face. I mean with video, with receipts. With every record of every time something left this house without my permission. You wouldn't. Try me. The standoff stretched between us like a wire pulled too tight. Then Frank spoke. We're done here. He stood, his movement heavy and slow, and crossed to his daughter. He took the baby from her arms, gently, almost tenderly, a gesture that made my chest ache because he'd never once held Samuel like that, and carried him toward the broken door. Mark, Frank said without turning back, you call me when you've had a talk with your wife. You call me when she's ready to be part of this family again. He stepped through the ruined doorframe, and Margaret followed, her eyes darting to mine one last time, full of the calculation I knew too well. Emily lingered. You think you've won something? She whispered. I think I've started something. I held her gaze. And I don't think you know what's coming next. She wanted to say something. I could see her mouth working, the threat forming. But Mark stepped between us. Leave. The word was quiet, but final. Emily stared at her brother like she'd never seen him before. Then, slowly, she followed her parents out, her boots crunching on the broken wood of my front door. When they were gone, Mark turned to me. Elena. I walked past him. I didn't have the energy for his apologies. Not now. Not when I could still feel the shape of Emily's face in my memory, her fury so absolute and misplaced. But I did have one thing. I had the footage from the camera I'd installed in the pantry 2 weeks ago, the one I'd hidden behind the rice cooker, the one I'd almost removed because I felt guilty for not trusting them. I pulled up the video on my phone as I walked down the hall. There it was, Frank, at 2:47 p.m. on a Tuesday, loading my son's formula into a canvas tote bag with the same casual confidence you'd use to bag groceries. I'd document it all. Every can, every time. And when I was ready, I'd show them what it really meant to be part of this family. But not yet, because the best revenge wasn't served cold. It was served exactly, when the other person never saw it coming. I looked down at Samuel, now drowsy in his bouncer, his cheeks drying, his breathing evening out. You have a good mom, I whispered to him. And when you're bigger, you're going to understand. You don't let the people who hurt you tell you what love looks like. I closed the video and started planning my next move. Because Emily was right about one thing. This wasn't over. But she was wrong about who was in control. Hashtag chapter 2. The price of borrowing. I didn't sleep that night. Not because Samuel woke up. He slept like a rock. Thank God. But because my mind wouldn't stop replaying the sound of splintering wood. The look on Emily's face. The way Mark had stood there, frozen, until the very last second. Around 3 a.m., I got up and walked to the front door. The deadbolt was still hanging from the frame by a single screw. I propped a chair against it, but that wasn't a real fix. I made a mental note to call a locksmith in the morning, and a contractor, and maybe a lawyer just to have one in my back pocket. I didn't cry I'd done enough of that in the first 3 months of Samuel's life, back when I thought the problem was me. Back when I believed if I just tried harder, gave more, shrank smaller, they'd finally treat me like I belonged. Now I knew better. Now I knew the only way to survive this family was to stop being the person they could walk over. By morning, Mark had already left for work. He'd left a note on the kitchen counter. Elena, I'm sorry about yesterday. I should have said more. We'll talk tonight. M. I read it twice, then folded it into a square and tucked it into my back pocket. Not because I wanted to keep it, because I wanted to remember how little those words meant when they came too late. Samuel woke up cheerful, babbling at his mobile, and I fed him a special formula with a kind of quiet satisfaction, 0.1 full can, untouched, sitting right where I'd left it on the pantry shelf. No one had come in the night to take it. Progress. That afternoon, I took Samuel for a walk in the neighborhood, and we have a little pocket park 3 blocks down, the kind with a sad swing set and a bench where the retirees sit and gossip. I'd never been much of a joiner, but today I needed to be seen. I settled onto the bench next to Linda, a retired schoolteacher who knew everyone's business and let Samuel gurgle in a stroller. Elena, long time no see. Linda's eyes flicked to Samuel. He's getting so big. Look at those cheeks. He's doing better, I said, letting my voice drop just a little. We had a scare a few months ago, but we finally found a formula that works for him. Oh, what kind? I sighed theatrically. Specialty stuff, imported from Germany. It's for babies with severe milk allergies. Costs a fortune. Over $300 a can. But what can you do? It's either that or watch him break out in hives. Linda's eyebrows climbed. 300 for one can. I know, and we go through about 3 a month. It's brutal, but my husband's family, I paused, let my face do the work. Well, they don't really understand. My sister-in-law, Emily, she kept taking cans from our pantry, thought it was sharing. She didn't realize it's basically medication. Linda's mouth formed a perfect O. She took it without asking. Her father, my father-in-law, he come over and just load up a bag, like it was community property. I tried to explain, but they think I'm being difficult. Linda was already shaking her head. That's not sharing, Elena. That's theft. And with a baby's health on the line. I know. I looked down at Samuel, let my voice go soft and tired. I don't want to cause drama, but I can't keep letting them take what my son needs. I just can't. By the time I stood up to leave, Linda had pulled out her phone to text 3 different people. I could practically see the information spreading like ripples in a pond. $300 a can. Stealing from a baby. The in-laws don't care. By dinner, I'd already heard from 2 other neighbors, both just checking in to make sure I was okay. I was more than okay. I was building. The next morning, the doorbell rang at 10 a.m. I checked the peephole and felt a small jolt of recognition. Ryan, Emily's husband. He was holding a bag of fruit and a box of diapers, and his face looked like he hadn't slept in a week. I opened the door. Elena. He said my name like it was a question. Can I come in? I stepped aside. Ryan set the bag on the kitchen island and stood there, rubbing the back of his neck. He was a decent guy, or at least he'd always seemed like one. Maybe that was why Emily married him, because he was the kind of person who actually checked before he took things. I saw the door, he said, nodding toward the living room. What happened? Your wife happened, with backup. He winced. Yeah, I heard about the formula thing. She's been stressed. The baby's been colicky. Money's tight. She just stole from my son's mouth. He flinched like I'd hit him. I didn't realize it was that serious. When she told me it was just formula, I figured. You figured it was fair game, because my pantry is open season. Ryan opened his mouth, closed it, then pulled out his wallet. Look, I'll pay back. Whatever it cost. Just tell me how much. I reached into the drawer and pulled out the receipt. I slid it across the counter without a word. He picked it up. His eyes traced the numbers. Then his face drained of color. This is, per can? 320. She took 6 of them last month. That's almost $2,000. And that's just the formula. She also took diapers, wipes, baby food, things I bought with money I earned from my job, not from your business. Ryan set the receipt down like it was radioactive. I didn't know. I swear I didn't know. Didn't know she was stealing? Or didn't know it was expensive? Both. He ran a hand through his hair. Elena, I'm not like them that I never wanted to take anything, but Emily's been telling me your family was helping us, that Mark was fine with it. That you were fine with it. I was never fine with it. I just stopped fighting because no one listened. Ryan looked at me. I could see the calculation happening behind his eyes. Not the calculation of a schemer, the calculation of a man realizing his whole life was built on a lie. How do I make this right? He asked quietly. First, you stop taking anything from this house. Second, you tell Emily that if she ever touches my son's food again, I'm filing a police report. And third, I pulled out my phone and opened the video file. You watch this. I hit play and set the phone in front of him. The video showed Frank, 3 days before, walking into my pantry and loading 4 cans into his bag. Clear as day. No sound. But the picture told the whole story. Ryan's face went from pale to gray. He just walks in whenever he wants. He's got a key. So does Margaret. And Emily, apparently, because she let herself in yesterday while I was in the nursery. Ryan stared at the screen. She used a key? She broke my door down when I didn't answer. But yes, she had a key too. He was quiet for a long time. Then he took out his own phone and typed something. What are you doing? I asked. Texting Emily, telling her I need to see her now. He looked up at me, his jaw tight. I don't know what kind of marriage I'm in, Elena, but I know what I'm seeing. And I'm not going to let her drag me into something I didn't sign up for. I felt a flicker of something. Not pity, not victory, just recognition. Ryan wasn't the villain. He was collateral damage, but at least he was waking up. An hour later, my phone buzzed with a call from Mark. Emily just called me, he said. She's screaming. Ryan's asking her about the video, about Dad. She's saying you sent it to him. I did. Why? His voice cracked. Elena, you're making everything worse. Worse for who, Mark? For Emily? For your parents? Or worse for us? Because now everyone has to face what they've been doing. He was quiet for a beat. Ryan threatened to leave her. He said he's moving out. That's not my problem. She's my sister. And I'm your wife. I kept my voice even, but you keep forgetting that part. The silence stretched between us. Then, finally, Mark said, I'll be home early. We need to talk. About all of it. Fuming. I hung up, and for the first time in months, I didn't feel like the ground was shifting under me. I felt solid, unshakable. Because I had video. I had receipts. I had a story that the entire neighborhood was starting to believe. And I wasn't done yet. That evening, Mark walked through the door with takeout containers and a half-empty bottle of wine. He set them on the counter and looked at me like I was a stranger he was trying to read. You've been busy, he said. Just protecting my son. He nodded slowly. Ryan called me. He's going to stay with a friend for a while. Emily's at Mom and Dad's. She's not talking to anyone. Good. Elena. Mark. I sat down at the table and gestured for him to join me. I'm not going to apologize for showing Ryan the truth. He deserved to know what kind of family he married into. And if Emily can't handle her husband seeing her for who she is, that's not my fault. Mark pulled out a chair and sat heavily. I know she was wrong. I know Dad was wrong. I just I grew up with them. I don't know how to stop wanting them to be better. Then stop wanting and start seeing. They're not going to change, Mark. Not because they can't, because they don't want to. They like the system. They like having someone to blame. Us, he said quietly. Me, I corrected. They blame me. You're just the guy who's too scared to leave. He flinched. I'd never said it that bluntly before. But I was done holding back. Later that night, after Samuel was asleep, I sat at my laptop and started drafting a legal letter. Nothing official, just a template I'd found online for cease and desist. I'd send it to Frank and Margaret if they came near my house again. I didn't know if it would hold up in court, but I knew it would scare them. And fear, I was learning, was the only language they understood. But I also knew this wasn't over. Emily wasn't the type to go quietly. She'd fight back. She'd lie, scheme, turn people against me. I just had to be ready for whatever she threw next. And I had a feeling the next shot was coming soon. The next morning, I got a text from an unknown number. You think you're so smart, but I've got something you don't. Watch your back. I stared at the screen for a long moment. Then I smiled. Because I'd been watching my back for months, and now I knew exactly who I was dealing with. Emily had officially declared war. Game on. Hashtag Chapter 3, the witness in the walls. The cops showed up at 9:17 on a Tuesday morning. I know the exact time because I was on the floor with Samuel stacking blocks when the knock came, not a bang, a formal, insistent rap that made me sit up straight. I peeked through the peephole and saw 2 uniforms, one male, one female, their faces professionally neutral. My heart didn't even skip. I'd been expecting something like this for days. I opened the door. Elena Mitgill. Yes. The female officer held up a badge. I'm Officer Chen. This is Officer Reeves. We received a complaint regarding potential child endangerment. A child in your care was allegedly exposed to a harmful substance. I let out a slow breath. Let me guess. The complainant is Emily Sullivan. Officer Chen's eyebrow twitched. The only sign I was right. We're required to investigate. May we come in? Of course. I stepped aside. My son is in the living room. He's 6 months old. I'd appreciate it if you didn't raise your voices. They followed me in, their boots quiet on the hardwood. Samuel looked up from his blocks and babbled at them, utterly unafraid. That helped. Ms. Mitchell, Officer Reeves began, can you tell us about the formula incident? Happy to. I pulled out my phone and started pulling up files. But first, can you tell me exactly what Emily claimed? Officer Chen consulted her notes. She stated that you intentionally gave her son a formula you knew would cause severe allergic reactions. She claims you did this out of malice and that her child was hospitalized with anaphylaxis-like symptoms. Anaphylaxis-like, I repeated. That's interesting, because the formula I buy is hypoallergenic. It's designed for babies with severe milk protein allergies. I bought it specifically because my son has that condition. Emily stole it from my pantry without asking, fed it to her own non-allergic child, and then blamed me when he broke out in hives. I held up my phone. I have receipts. I have medical records from my son's pediatrician confirming his allergy. I have video footage of my father-in-law loading cans of this formula into a bag and walking out of my house without permission, and I have text messages from Emily where she threatens me. Officer Reeves took the phone, scrolling through the evidence. Officer Chen watched my face. Why didn't you report the theft? She asked. Because it was family. I was hoping they'd stop on their own. I let a note of bitterness creep in. They didn't, so I started documenting. Every time. The video you're looking at, I've got 5 separate clips from the last 6 weeks. Officer Reeves handed the phone back. This is thorough. I have a child to protect. I'm not taking chances. Officer Chen wrote something in her pad. We'll need copies of all of this, and we'll speak to the complainant to verify her story. I nodded. I'd also like to file a report regarding the theft and the property damage. Emily broke my front door down 2 days ago to get into my house. I've got video of that too. Officer Reeves's eyebrows went up. She broke in? She had a key, but I didn't answer, so she kicked the door in. I have security footage of the whole thing. They exchanged a look. The one that said this complainant might be in for a surprise. Ms. Mitchell will follow up. In the meantime, I'd advise you to keep documenting and not engage with the complainant. Already on it. They left. I closed the door and leaned against it, exhaling. That had gone better than expected. But I knew Emily wouldn't stop there. She'd escalate. She'd find another angle. I just had to find her angle first. That evening, Mark came home early. He looked tired, more tired than usual, and he didn't meet my eyes when he walked in. How was your day? I asked, keeping my voice light. Fiend. He hung his jacket. The cops came here. Emily called them. I heard. He sat down at the kitchen table. Elena, I need to tell you something. I felt the shift in the air. That strange premonition you get when someone's about to drop a bomb. What? He took a long breath. Emily called me yesterday, before the police. She asked me to tell her where you kept the formula. She said she wanted to see it, whatever that meant. I didn't think. You told her? No. He looked up, his eyes wide. I said no, I told her to stay away, but she kept asking, and I might have mentioned that you kept the Nukin in the pantry, not the freezer. I thought she was just asking so she could avoid it. The floor dropped out from under me. You told her where the formula was. Elena, I didn't know. Mark, my voice was shaking. You told the person who broke into my house, the person who's been stealing from us for months, where I keep my son's medication. And you think that's just a mistake? I was trying to keep the peace. Keeping the peace is what got us here. I stood up, my chair scraping back. You've been doing it for 6 months, and every time you keep the peace, it means someone walks over me, over Samuel, over everything we are, and now you're giving her information. Mark's face crumpled. I didn't realize she was going to. You didn't realize? She kicked down our front door, Mark. She called the police on me. She accused me of poisoning her child, and you're telling me you still thought she was just asking? He had no answer. I walked to the bedroom and pulled out my laptop. I'd been recording audio in our room for 2 weeks, not because I suspected Mark, but because I wanted to document anything Frank or Margaret said when they visited. I opened the file from yesterday, the one marked with the time of Mark's call. There it was, his side of the conversation. Yeah, she just bought a new can. It's in the pantry, bottom shelf. No, she's not home right now. You can come by if you want. My hands were shaking. I played it for him. Mark listened to his own voice. His face went from confusion to horror to something that looked like shame. Elena, You gave her a time window. She came here while I was at the grocery store. She didn't break in that time. She used the key you gave her. The one you said you took back. I had to take it back. I don't know how she got a copy. You didn't check. I trusted her. You trusted her over me. Over your own son. He was silent. I closed the laptop. Mark, I'm not going to yell at you. I'm not going to cry. I'm past that. But I need you to hear me. I met his eyes. You've been choosing them every single time. Every time you tell me to apologize, every time you ask me to tolerate, every time you keep the peace, you're choosing them over us. You chose them when you gave Emily information. You chose them when you didn't stop Frank from taking our food. You chose them when you let them walk into our house like it was theirs. Mark opened his mouth, but nothing came out. I'm not asking you to choose me, I continued. I'm telling you that your choice has already been made, and I'm going to act accordingly. What does that mean? It means I'm going to protect my son, with or without you. I didn't wait for his answer. The next morning, I went to a lawyer. Her name was Diane, and she specialized in family law. I laid out everything. The theft, the broken door, the police complaint, the audio recording of Mark's call. Diane took notes, asked sharp questions, and finally leaned back in her chair. You've got a strong case for a restraining order, she said, against Emily, Frank, and Margaret. Possibly against Mark, too, if he keeps facilitating. I don't want a restraining order against my husband yet. Fair, but I'd recommend you freeze your assets, separate your accounts, change the locks, and document everything. She slid a business card across the desk. If you decide to file for divorce, come back. You've got grounds. Divorce. The word hung in the air. I hadn't said it aloud yet, but I'd been thinking it. I'm not there yet, I said, but I want to be ready. Smart woman. That evening, I changed the locks on every door. I installed a new deadbolt, plus a chain. I also set up additional cameras, one in the hallway, one aimed at the back door. And I started packing. Not to move out, not yet, but to be ready. Samuel's essentials, my documents, a few changes of clothes. I stashed the bag in the trunk of my car. When Mark came home and saw the new locks, he didn't say anything. He just stood there, staring at the door like it was a stranger. You're leaving? He finally asked. I'm prepared. There's a difference. I don't want to lose you. Then you should have fought for me when it mattered. He sat down on the sofa and put his head in his hands. I almost felt sorry for him, until I remembered his voice on the recording, casually giving Emily a green light to steal from us again. 2 days later, Emily showed up at my door, not to break it down, but to knock. I checked the camera and saw her standing there, her face blotchy and red. No baby, just her. I opened the door. What do you want? To end this. She looked like she'd been crying. Ryan left me. My parents are freaking out. Everyone in the neighborhood thinks I'm a thief. And I know it's because of you. You did it to yourself. She shook her head. I want to make a deal. I'll stop stealing. I'll pay you back. Just make it stop. Make everyone stop talking. A deal? I laughed. A short, humorless sound. Emily, you called the cops on me. You accused me of poisoning your son. You broke my door. And now you want a deal? I'll do anything. I looked at her, and I saw the desperation. She was drowning. She'd alienated her husband, her family, her neighbors. And she was looking at me like I could throw her a lifeline. But I wasn't in the lifeline business. I want you to leave me alone, I said. Forever. No contact. No coming near my house, my son, or me. If you do that, I won't press charges for the break-in or the theft. And if I don't, then I release everything. The videos, the audio, the receipts. I'll send them to your employer, your church, your friends, your in-laws. Everyone will know exactly who you are. She stared at me like I'd grown a second head. You're not serious. I've never been more serious. Her face crumpled. For a moment, I saw the little girl underneath, the one who'd been spoiled and protected her whole life, who never learned that actions have consequences. But the sight didn't soften me. IT just made me tired. I'll get you the money, she whispered. Just don't ruin me. Leave the money with Diane Foster, my attorney, and don't contact me again. I closed the door and leaned against it. Emily wasn't the real problem. She was a symptom. The real problem was standing in my living room, pretending to read a magazine, his hands shaking. Mark. I'd given him one chance to be better. He'd chosen them. Now I had to choose myself. Chapter 4, the final ingredient. The money arrived on Friday. A certified check for $1,920, exactly 6 cans at $320 each, delivered to Diane Foster's office with a short note. As agreed, don't contact me again. No signature. N.O. return address. Just Emily's desperation, printed in tidy black ink. Diane called me at noon. It's done. The check cleared this morning. You now have documented proof she admitted liability. I sat at my kitchen table, phone to my ear, watching Samuel nap in his bouncer. The afternoon light made his lashes look like tiny gold fringes. What happens next? I asked. Nothing, unless she violates the no contact agreement. If she comes near you or your son, I'll file for restraining order and press charges for the break-in. Your evidence is airtight. Good. I hung up and stared at the check's image on my phone. Part of me expected to feel triumphant. Instead, I felt hollow. The money wasn't the point. The point was that I'd had to build a war chest just to protect my son's food from his own relatives. But the hollow feeling didn't last. Because that night, Mark came home with a new phone. I noticed it immediately. A sleek black case, different from his usual blue one. He set it on the counter while he kicked off his shoes, and I caught the screen lighting up with a notification. Mom calling. He ignored it. New phone. I asked, keeping my voice light. Work gave me a backup. He didn't meet my eyes. The old one's battery was dying. It was a small lie. A nothing lie, but I'd learned to spot them like a hawk spots a mouse. Mark's tell. He rubbed his left ear when he lied. Every single time. He rubbed his ear. Mind if I borrow your old one? I asked. Mine's been glitching. I already wiped it. Turned it in to IT. Ah. I nodded. Makes sense. That night, while he was in the shower, I went through his coat pockets. I found his old phone. Not turned in, just shoved in the pocket of his winter jacket, which he hadn't worn in months. The battery was dead, but I knew his passcode. Samuel's birth date. I plugged it in. The texts were all there. A thread with Frank, dated 3 days ago. Frank, she changed the locks. We can't get in. Mark, I know. I'm working on it. Frank, your mother is beside herself. Emily's been crying nonstop. This woman is destroying our family. Mark, I'll talk to her. She's just protective of Samuel. Frank, protective? She's unhinged. We're worried about the baby's safety. That formula is clearly dangerous. Emily's son had welts for days. Mark, the doctor said it was a normal reaction to high protein. Frank, you believe her over your own flesh and blood? Mark, I don't know what to believe anymore. Frank, then let us help. We'll come over tomorrow. You'll be there. We'll talk to her as a family. Mark, okay, but don't yell. She's not going to respond to that. A thread with Emily from yesterday. Emily, did you tell her I'm paying back the formula? Mark, no. She'll find out from a lawyer. Emily, good. Because I'm not actually paying. I'm just stalling. Dad's got a plan. Mark, what plan? Emily, he's talking to a family lawyer. We're going to prove she's an unfit mother. The formula thing, the way she's cut us off, the way she's turning you against us. It's all evidence. Mark, she's not unfit. She's been a great mom. Emily, Mark, she's isolating you. She's making you choose between us. That's textbook abuse. Mark, I don't think. Emily, just keep her calm. Don't let her suspect anything. And don't tell her about the lawyer. We'll handle it. Mark, okay. A thread with his father again, 2 hours before I found the phone. Frank, the lawyer is drafting a petition for custody. We'll argue that she knowingly endangered her child by using an experimental formula without medical supervision. Mark, she had a doctor's note. Frank, the doctor is a quack. We have a letter from Emily's pediatrician saying the formula is inappropriate for infants. Mark, that's a lie. Frank, it's a strategy. If she loses custody, Samuel will stay with us. You'll have visitation, and she'll be out of our lives for good. Mark, I can't do that to her. Frank, you don't have to. The court will do it for you. Just don't fight it. Mark, I need time. Frank, you have until Monday. After that, we file. I set the phone down. My hands were shaking, but not with fear, not with anger, with the clarity of seeing it all, laid out in black and white. They've been planning this for weeks. Emily's payment was a stall tactic. Frank's family talk was a setup. Mark, my husband, the father of my child, was going to stand by and let them take Samuel away from me. Because he was too weak to say no. Because he'd always choose them. Because he believed, maybe deep down, that they were right. I didn't confront him that night. I slept in the nursery, curled on the floor beside Samuel's crib, and I let myself cry for the first time in weeks. Not because I was sad, because I was done. Done hoping. Done forgiving. Done believing that love could fix what was fundamentally broken. In the morning, I got up, made coffee, and called Diane. It's worse than I thought, I said. They're planning a custody fight. They're claiming I'm an unfit mother. Diane was silent for a moment. What evidence do they have? None that's true. But they've got a pediatrician's letter, probably forged. And they've got my husband's passive compliance. They're going to use the formula as their main weapon. Then we need to get ahead of this. Her voice sharpened. I need to see everything you've got. Emails, texts, the doctor's note for Samuel, the videos. And I need you to consider filing for divorce and custody first. If you file first, you set the terms. Can I get full custody? On what grounds? I thought about it. Then I remembered the audio recording of Mark giving Emily permission to come over. The text about the forged pediatrician letter. The plan to prove I was unfit. I have recordings, I said. I have proof they're plotting to fabricate evidence. And I have a husband who's been facilitating it. Diane let out a low whistle. That's not a custody fight. That's a slam dunk. Then let's do it. But I didn't file immediately. I waited. Because I needed one more piece. One more conversation. One I could record, where Frank or Emily admitted their plan in their own words. I got it on Sunday. Mark had told me his parents were coming over to make peace. He promised there would be no yelling. He promised he'd be there the whole time. I'd said yes. Frank and Margaret arrived at 2 p.m. carrying a casserole, Margaret's classic peace offering. Emily came too, alone, and oh, Ryan, no baby. They walked through my newly locked door with Mark's key, the one he'd apparently had copied without telling me. I'd hidden cameras in the living room, the hallway, and the kitchen. I'd also set my phone to record audio in my pocket. We sat around the coffee table like civilized people. Frank cleared his throat. Elena, we've been thinking. We've made mistakes. We should have asked before taking the formula. We should have respected your boundaries. I nodded, my face neutral. Thank you. That means a lot. We just want what's best for Samuel. Margaret leaned forward, her eyes glistening. And for you, we want you to be happy. Happy. I kept my voice even. After everything, Frank held up a hand. Let's start fresh, and oh more taking things, and oh more fighting. But we need to talk about Samuel's care. We're worried about the formula. We've consulted a specialist, and they're concerned about long-term effects. A specialist? I raised an eyebrow. Who? Our friend, Dr. Harrison. He's a pediatrician. He reviewed the formula's ingredients and said it's not appropriate for infants. Dr. Harrison, I repeated. Is he board certified? He's been practicing for 30 years. But has he seen Samuel? Has he examined him? Frank's jaw tightened. He doesn't need to. The ingredients speak for themselves. So you're telling me, I said, that a doctor who's never met my son, never seen his medical history, and never tested his allergies, that doctor is more qualified than my son's actual pediatrician? We're just saying we're worried. Emily cut in. And we think it's time for a second opinion. A second opinion? Or a second agenda? Emily's eyes went wide. What's that supposed to mean? I mean, I've seen your texts, Emily. I've seen your father's texts. I know about the lawyer. I know about the custody petition. The room went dead silent. Mark's face drained of color. Elena! Don't. I held up a hand. I know everything. Did I know you've been planning to take Samuel from me? Did I know you've been coaching Mark to keep me calm while you built your case? I know about the forged pediatrician letter. Frank's face went purple. That's a lie. Then, why did I find this on Mark's phone? I pulled the old phone from my pocket, the one I'd taken. I'd taken screenshots and saved everything. I held up the screen. Frank's eyes darted to Mark, who looked like he was going to be sick. You're supposed to delete that, Frank hissed. I didn't think I had to. Mark's voice cracked. You said it was just insurance. It is insurance. Emily stood up. She's a danger to our family. She's poisoned my son. She's turned you against us. Emily, your son broke out in hives because you stole food that wasn't yours. I stood too, my voice rising. And now you're trying to take my son to cover up your own failures? You're not fit to be a mother. Then why haven't you called social services? I shot back. Why haven't you reported me? Because you don't have a case. You have a lie. And now everyone's going to know it. I pulled out my phone and hit send on a pre-written email to Diane. Attached. All the videos, all the screenshots, all the recordings. It's done, I said. I've filed for divorce. I've filed for full custody. And I've submitted every piece of evidence to my attorney and to the court. Mark stared at me like,